All right, folks. We have Dave Lapham with us, who was supposed to come on the show tonight because the game last night was Monday Night Football. But there's a different situation today. What happened yesterday, last night? We all know what happened with the Bills player who collapsed on the field. So, Dave, you were there in the booth last night doing this game. It was 7-3. Higgins gets the catch and it goes over the middle, and Hamlin tackles him. What was going through your mind? And you're like, this doesn't look right. Like for you, seeing this, what happened with Higgins and Hampton right there, tackled each other. And what was going through your mind?
Yeah, it was an innocuous play. I mean, Hamlin has made that tackle probably a million times. And T. Higgins has, lowered his shoulder and tried to gain yards after catch a million times. So this time it didn't end the way anybody wanted it to end. I don't know if there was a heart condition that Hamlin has been dealing with that hasn't been determined yet. I've heard all these rumors about aortic aneurysm and all this stuff. Who knows? Or if it was just from the contact in his chest that caused the irregular heartbeat. But he was in trouble, and it's unfortunate because T. Higgins knows him pretty well. In fact, Tyler Boyd has a football camp at Pittsburgh. Tyler Boyd knows Hamlin. They both went to Pitt, and he had Hamlin coming to his football camp. He had Higgins coming to his football camp. Those guys met each other, became friendly, and T. Higgins was devastated, after the game being involved in that play. But it was just a normal football play that did not end normally, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, you're 100% at risk every single snap, 100% of the snaps, and that's the situation going in. But this one, the difference in this one is usually when players are taken off the field, they wave and acknowledge they're okay. This one, there was no closure like that. It really had the stadium just stunned. There's no other way to put it. Absolutely stunned.
Yeah, I was watching it from here, and I was like, it was like 7-3, and I'm like, why is it delayed? And it said it was a hit, and there's a medical on the field. And I'm like, okay, all right, this game will resume after he gets off the field. And we normally see people pop up going, we're good, and we're off the, they're off the field and they get on the stretcher and then all of a sudden it took a little longer after that. And I'm like, I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, this is not right. There's something wrong here. And all of a sudden it was like really heartbreaking because you see all these broadcasters like Joe Buck, who's almost was in tears last night. He was almost in tears. Ryan Clark, who was on ESPN last night after the whole situation, he was literally almost in tears, and Scott Van Pelt was trying to, make him not, cry on the air. But for you guys are former players and broadcasters, this must have been one of those like gut wrenching things, and you're like, you start taking it back, thinking, what about me? What if it was me? What happened? What about my family? I was thinking about my parents. What had happened to me? You probably would have done the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. I observing the whole thing when every member of the team came out on the field, and then a lot of them couldn't even look. They had to turn away. I saw players crying. I saw players vomiting. I saw players, hugging each other. I knew at that point this was not your typical injury. The thing that alerted me immediately was both sidelines. The MVP of the game was the medical teams for both teams, and their immediate response and in mass. They went out there, and they went out there with a defibrillator. Went out there giving professional, CPR and everything they possibly could. It brought this young man back to life. I mean, he was in a bad way, and they literally brought him back to life, and he's still in critical condition. There hasn't been any update since, and he has to use a breathing tube and all, but at least he's still with us. And if the professionals that were there weren't, he wouldn't be here with us right now. So I can't say enough about their response, the professionalism with which they responded, and they saved a life, big time saved a life. So in front of a national television audience, a worldwide audience. I mean, it was primetime game, and it was prime time of the primetime game, the 9 to 10 o'clock hour. I mean, there were a gazillion eyeballs on that football game and saw what took place. It was the only game in town and from a professional standpoint. So it was getting plenty of attention. It was getting a lot of media hype. And the game started out, both the quarterbacks were doing what people thought they were going to do. And it looked like it was going to be a track meet. Both teams scored on their first possessions, 7-3. Bengals' next possession, they were in the process of going down and getting points. And then the play happened.
Yeah. So what would these two teams like? Let's talk about the Bengals. What would they do? You know, was this game coming up on Sunday against the Ravens? Would they even get back on the field? Because the last image you saw was that guy on the field collapsing. And if you're a player, how are you going to get focused to knowing that could have been you?
Yeah, I think it would have been very, very difficult for players to continue last night. That's why the determination was made. Forget about it. Don't even go there.
Right.
To compartmentalize what you saw last night and go back and play football, that would have been too big an ask. It would have been unreasonable an ask. But I'm sure there are players from both teams that are getting counseling right now. I'm sure that some guys handle things. Everybody handles things differently. Some internalize more than others. And if you need to get counseling in some way, shape, or form, you should do it. And don't be embarrassed about it or anything else. You got to get your mind right, not just for football, but for life in general. And that's a traumatic experience to witness things like that they saw. And I think it's going to be a challenge for both football teams mentally to get ready to play. The Bills have the Patriots. The Bengals have the Ravens. Big division rivalry games. You got to get your mind right as well as being physically capable and ready to go. It can go one of two ways. If you can't get over it and compartmentalize, you're going to struggle. If you can, it will be, we got to win this game for Hamlin. I mean, he gave the ultimate sacrifice to us by, what he went through on the football field on Monday night. Let's rally around him. Let's win this football game and go as far as we can. And let's win a Super Bowl for Hamlin. I mean, it could, you could see it being a rallying point potentially for the football team. So it's going to be interesting to see how the whole thing unfolds. And from a Bengals perspective, same thing. It's like that's a punch in the gut seeing something like that happen. So you gotta get over it. If you need help to get over it, again, counseling, do whatever it takes, and then see what you can muster up and go beat the Ravens.
Exactly. Real quick before I let you go, is there anything from this game going forward or anything in the future that the NFL has to do to not have this happen again on prime time or anything down the road? Because I feel like this is now a turning point in safety for football. What do they need to do? And did they need, like you said, the medical team was, should be the MVP last night. What do you, in your eyes, what needs to be done better from this point forward so we don't have this scene again on Monday Night Football?
It's going to be interesting to see if it could have been prevented. If he had an aortic aneurysm, there's nothing they could have done, other than him not being on the football field. If it went undetected, that needs to be determined why it went undetected. If in fact it did happen, if he did have one, so some kind of predisposed condition, there's really not much you can do about it. Just like Gathers when he was playing college basketball, the old Marymount, and he has his heart condition. He had an enlarged heart, and he dies. And his team, Kimball's taking left-handed free throws in his honor and all that sort of thing during the tournament. It kind of brought all that back to me. But if in fact it was a direct hit to his chest that caused the irregular heartbeat, you're going to have to wear a flak jacket or a longer plate in the shoulder pads, whatever it takes to pad up that area and make sure that it doesn't happen again if in fact that's the reason that it occurred. So there's going to be a lot that goes on. I mean, the commissioner's not going to sit on his hands. He's going to say, let's go through all of our protocols. What was the cause? If we can identify it, what can we do to rectify it? And I'm sure there's a lot of people already working on that.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thanks so much for taking the time this afternoon, and bless you and your family, and bless the Bengals and everybody. And we're all here saying a prayer for that kid, and hopefully he will get out of the speedy recovery, and we could all move on, and maybe could get some back to not normalcy, but somewhat, what football is.
Yeah, I hope that Hamlin lives as normal a life as he possibly can. I hope this does not cause him to live a life that is a tough one to live. I'm sure he won't be playing football anymore, but there's a lot more to life than just football. Life is what it's all about, and hopefully he has the best one that he possibly can the rest of his life.
That's true. All right, Dave. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.